8.2 Bloom's taxonomy. People often refer to lower-level and higher-level questions or behaviors, rather than assigning a specific level to those questions or behaviors. Lower-level questions are typically at the remember, understand, and apply levels of Bloom's taxonomy and are most appropriate for evaluating students' preparation and comprehension, diagnosing students' strengths and weaknesses, reviewing and/or summarizing content. Higher-level questions involve the ability to analyze, evaluate, create, and are most appropriate for encouraging students to think more deeply and critically, problem-solving and encouraging discussions, stimulating students to seek information on their own. You should plan some questions based on the content. Try to match the level of difficulty of the question to the ability of the student. Try to ask questions randomly, so that students pay attention and your Q&A isn't predictable. The level of language you use to ask your learners questions shouldn't be complicated. When to ask questions. The educator should normally prepare questions for the following parts of the lesson. Introduction, anticipatory set, to recap and find the level of previous knowledge, to check understanding and to pique the interest of learners. Development, presentation, to check if learning is taking place and to see if the presentation can continue. CCQs. You can also reinforce and recap the information taught. This is mostly applicable in a long lecture like lessons or complex training sessions. Guided practice, to correct mistakes students are making, check if students are following instructions. ICQs, give advice, test understanding of new knowledge and skills. Consolidation or closure, to test the learning objectives have been achieved and reinforce learning by repetition, correcting misconceptions and incorrect answers in the closure phase. Educators can ask questions basically at any time. CCQs and ICQs, especially before and during guided practice. You should plan some questions based on the content and activities. Use instruction checking questions. ICQs when you want the class to follow a process or complete a procedure when completing an activity. Use concept checking questions. CCQs when you want to see if learning has taken place. After asking the question, give a few seconds for the student to listen, comprehend, think of a response and answer the question. If the student does not respond, you could either rephrase the question, so that all the students have a clear understanding of the question, or you can open up the same question to the rest of the class. Sometimes it's best to ask the entire class a question and then pick a student if no one responds. Some questions that you ask will emerge organically from other questions or the dialogue following a question. Ask clear and concise questions. Make sure your questions only cover one issue at a time. The student response should not require more than one correct answer, unless the answer is incomplete or a more detailed response is required. The action verbs that you use in your questions can determine and indicate the learning level of the answers required. Use unbiased questions. Phrase questions in a way that does not promote your opinion bias and that does not guide the participants to answer one way or another. Example of bias: we all know my country makes the best aircraft, so which international commercial aircraft manufacturer has had the worst accident record for the last 10 years? Example of non-bias: which international commercial aircraft manufacturer has had the worst accident record for the last 10 years? Please hit the subscribe button for more updates. Thanks for watching this video. More updates.